What's up, YouTube fam? Today we are making salmon cheesesteaks with spinach and tomatoes. So first thing you're going to do is get your pan with some olive oil and some butter, and then we're going to start adding some diced onions to the pan when it starts to get hot. And then after the onions, we're going to add just a spoonful of minced garlic. After that starts getting hot, we're going to try to mix it around in the olive oil and the butter. And then after that, we're going to get some spinach. I have frozen spinach that I had in my freezer that's in the bag. You can get fresh spinach if you want. Just add that on top of the onions and the garlic. And then the first seasoning we're going to add to that is the adobo. And then we're going to add some smoked paprika. Then after that, we're going to add some pure black pepper. And then once that starts going, we're going to start mixing that around a little bit so it can start to cook. So once we have that going, we're going to get some fire roasted diced garlic hunced tomatoes, and we're going to drain that tomato juice out before you pour it on top of the spinach. And then we're going to start mixing that around. That way it can start mixing in with the spinach and all the seasonings that we had. We don't want to cook these too much because that's not necessary. So we're just going to add them in towards the end of the spinach being cooked. So after we have all of that mixed in really good and it starts simmering like this, then we can just take this out of the pan and set it to the side. So clean that pan back out, add some more virgin olive oil to the pan, and then we're going to add a little bit more butter, mix that around in there so it can start to heat up. After that, we're going to literally add all of our salmon to this one pan. We're not going to add the seasonings in the very beginning. We just want it to start cooking enough for us to be able to start chopping it up. As you can see, I literally have them stacked on top of each other, but that's okay because we're going to chop them up like I said. So cover it up and let that cook till it starts bubbling up like this. And then we're going to start chopping it up. It don't have to be chopped up finely as of yet. We're going to chop it up just a little bit. That way we can add the seasonings in there and it can start to cook and we can get that good aroma smell that we need. So after we've got it starting to chop up a little bit, we're going to move to the seasonings. The first thing we're going to add is our Old Bay. Add that all around. Don't worry about mixing it around yet. We're going to get to that. Then the next thing I have is some ground ginger. Ginger tastes really good. I don't add too much, but just enough where I can start tasting it. Next thing we're going to add is black pepper. Add that the same amount or however much you want. Then after that, we're going to add some smoked paprika, of course. And we're going to add that on top. And then after we add the paprika, we're going to start chopping it up a little more and mixing it around together. That way the seasonings can mix in with the juice that we have at the bottom of the pan, which is the butter and the olive oil. And once the seasoning starts mixing in with that butter and you leave it cooking for just a few minutes, it's all going to just marinate together. You want to make sure you're chopping it up however small or big you want your pieces to be. And as you're doing that, you're also just mixing it all together, like I said, so the seasonings can get in between everything and into the juice. And we're going to let it sit for a couple more minutes. That way it can all cook together. We don't have to really add any more seasonings unless you just want to. Now that we have our essential seasonings all mixed together and starting to cook together, we're going to add a little bit of oregano. And then I'm going to add a little bit of fish sauce. You don't need too much of this. It comes out slow, so it's dripping. That's why it's dripping slow. But it's a little salty to the taste, but just be careful and use it in moderation. So after that, we're going to just mix it all in again. And then after that, we're going to have it sit a little bit more. Be careful not to overcook our fish. But we gotta get the seasoning. You know how I am about my seasoning, so we gotta have the seasoning just sitting in the butter and olive oil and everything that we just put in this pan. So make sure it's getting in that juice. So after we let it cook for a few minutes, we're going to drain most of that juice out. Just leave a little bit at the bottom so we're not like frying it from here on out. Then I'm going to add American cheese to the top. After I lay the American cheese on the top, that's when I'm going to start mixing it again. That way the cheese can start melting in between and we're not missing any spots because we need it cheesy. This is a cheesesteak. This is a salmon cheesesteak, and we need to taste the cheese. Now, you don't have to, but I like cheese, so I added 4 more slices of cheese and did the same thing. Mixed it all in together. This is going to be cheesy and it's going to be good, but I added so much cheese because I'm going to add that spinach and tomatoes that we made in the beginning into this salmon and cheese. So now we have our cheese all melted and mixed in. It's looking extra cheesy, sitting in the juice that we have at the bottom of the pan. So now I put the salmon in a different pot, and now we're going to start laying the tomatoes and the spinach that we made earlier on top, little by little. That way we're not adding too much to overpower the salmon, because that's just not what we want. We're not cooking a spinach hoagie. So now that we have that laying on top, we're going to mix it around to make sure we have enough in there. Now once we have it all mixed in together, sitting in there, you cannot tell me this just don't look just so good. We don't even have it on the bread yet. So my hoagie bread I put in the oven just for a couple minutes so it's not getting too hard. So after you did that, you can add some butter to your bread if you want to, but I mean, it's not necessary, but that's what you can do. So I start adding the meat and everything to it, and then it's done. You can start cutting this in half and tearing it up. You could add some ketchup to it. You don't even have to add ketchup. Try to bite it first before you add anything to it. I'm telling you, it's so good. You need to try this hoagie.